Good morning. I don't know if we're, good morning, everyone. We're going to start in just about 10 minutes. I'll put here in the comments, but today you'll need a block or a couple blocks or big sturdy books and a strap. But if you don't have a yoga strap at home, you can also grab a pillowcase, even a shirt, like a long sleeve shirt, or a tie, a necktie, anything like that. So let me type that in. All right, good morning, everyone. If you didn't see the message on the Facebook Live today, we're going to need 2 blocks or nice sturdy books, a strap. If you don't have a yoga strap hanging out at your house, because lots of people wouldn't have one of those, why would you? Then you can use a pillowcase, a shirt, a necktie, or anything that's going to give you a little bit of extra length in your reach. Also, for those that like blankets, pillows, bolsters, feel free to grab those as well. We're going to begin the class today with some yin. So anything that you'd like to have to support your yin practice, go ahead and find that. So let's come down into the first posture. Oh, and of course, anyone just tuning in for the first time should introduce. I'm Avani of the Parvritta Yoga Academy, and this is Alex, who's going to help demonstrate the postures for today. So go ahead and come to lengthen out your legs on your mat, feet forward toward the top edge of your mat. And in the yin practice, it's tough, but you're going to let go of any ideas of form that you have from hatha or from yang style yoga. So go ahead and give your legs a little bit of a shake. It doesn't really matter which direction your feet or your toes point. They might kind of come in or out. Get your belly really, really soft and fold your weight forward. So this is where some of those tools or pieces of equipment in your pile might come in handy. Maybe you want to grab your stack of blocks or your stack of books and rest here. Of course, if you are working with pillows or bolsters at home, you can incorporate those. Really allow your belly or tummy to get soft. Allow your head to come down really nice and heavy. And in fact, if you prefer without supportive blocks or books, there can be quite a nice traction for the neck spine as well. So this first shape, caterpillar, the yin pose caterpillar, you want to sustain it for a minimum of 2 minutes to really get into and stress these ligaments and the connective tissue supporting the spine. We'll say about 3 minutes today. You can do as long as 5. And it's going to be really helpful for a little bit of compression for your internal organs, the front side of your body as you're folding forward, and going to create a lot of length in the back side of the whole back line of your body. So of course you're probably feeling this in the glutes and the hamstrings, maybe for some folks a little behind the knees. Let's prop up the hips. We're about 1 minute in. So settling in to find any final adjustments or readjustments that you might need and see if you can drop down to a still point. So the yin portion will really look for stillness, and there'll be an intensity and edge as we address the connective tissue. This very slow and meditative style of yoga can really help you to develop more depth to your flexibility quite quickly. So you want to really pay attention. That's why I actually really like this yin style for this particular class. So I'll be asking you to really tune into or hone in on your inner compass. So A.R. Ramon says that your inner voice is the voice of divinity. However, in order to hear it, we have to learn to be in solitude, even in crowded places. And so some of us are really truly in solitude right now, self-isolation alone, and others might be in more crowded places and looking for a time or space to have a little bit of silence. So yin poses are going to be perfect for that. We have just about a minute left to go. Smooth out your breath. Lots of space to really listen in to your body. If you need to deepen your edge, you can lower down. You might even lower a block or lose a block or both. Slowing down, finding enough space and enough silence to tune into the inner voice, that inner compass. Directional signals that are innate, they're part of your system when you are able to slow down enough to tune in. Take 3 more full breaths here. And then as you round into your next inhale, start to lift up, and I'll encourage you to lift from the space between your shoulder blades. Keep your back rounded, and it's like a slide, a very slow slide up toward a tall seat. In order to soften, bring some movement back into your hamstrings again, you can take like a slow-mo popcorn of your knees, just bend one and then the other. Really focus on easing out of that edginess from each yin pose. And then you can slide up onto the soles of your feet. Maybe take a little bit of a rock from side to side. And then go ahead and slide back towards center. Bring your feet to touch in the middle. The next shape will be butterfly, but we're going to take it as a recline variation. So for those that you know you might like some support for this one, you can take, if you're at home, if you have a pillow or bolster behind you, those folks that are here joining, if you want, you can take your bolster or even your blocks or books can support. Otherwise, go ahead and feet touch in the middle, let your knees wing out wide, and then come all the way down to the earth. So you can do this without any support as well. If it feels like that's too intense for the inner or outer line of your hip, just for your hips on any side, you can also take your blocks in underneath your knees. It's going to give them a little bit of a lift to help sustain. As we drop in on this next shape as well, we'll take 3 full minutes here. We drop into a reclined butterfly. We'll work with gallbladder line on the outside of the legs. If you're feeling any sensation in the back line of your body, you'll be getting into urinary bladder again. We just addressed that with our caterpillar pose as well. And depending on how close you have your heels toward the groin, they might be a little closer, a little further away. If you're getting lots of sensation on the inside line of your hip or groin, then you're getting into liver and kidney lines as well. We're about at the 1 minute mark. This is a good landmark for you to observe in your own body, in your own practice, if you've settled into a place that's quiet enough to be able to observe. If you're still in the kind of fidget, wiggle, itching, adjusting, readjusting spot, then we really haven't slowed down enough to turn the awareness within. So take a next couple of breaths and see if you can land there, about midway through the pose. Wide open space for you to explore here. And I wanted to offer out an inquiry for this morning, or kind of a prompt, which is do not pass by yourself without wondering. You have this whole vast landscape within you, so much to explore, so much to question. It's really fertile valley to adventure within. So don't pass by yourself without wondering. Be curious about what comes up for you, physical sensations and otherwise. Just under 1 minute left to go. And go ahead and find your last 3 cycles of breath. No need to hurry or rush them. So really present with all that is, that space for curiosity, for wondering. And then in your next breath or two, you can use your hands on the outside line of your knees and help guide both knees back up and together at center. Touch your knees together in the middle and then let your feet wiggle out a little bit wider, like hips width or even mats width apart, but your knees will touch in the middle. So it's kind of just the opposite action or movement that you just had your hips in. So knees touch in the middle and your feet come out. Constructive rest. Hold there. And breathe. You can bring your arms alongside your body or out wide from your shoulders. If you feel like it would be supportive for your practice, you can also try some of those windshield wiper movements from side to side. Leave your trunk, your torso down onto the earth. Be really, really slow. Really slow and unhurried. And then go ahead and roll down onto one side. The next time you knock your knees down to one side, roll all the way over there. Come to side lying, take a breath or two. And then press your way slowly up toward a seat. You'll move right to a seat toward tabletop. So as you gather some momentum, maybe crisscross your ankles and roll right there. Otherwise, you can sweep your feet around behind you. And then go ahead and lower all the way down onto the mat. And so if you're working at home, or certainly anyone here, you may want to cushion the points of your hips with a blanket before coming down. If you feel like that really hinders your practice, take a blanket underneath you. It can also be useful to have a blanket over the top edge of your mat for support for your neck. Just know that those are options as we move into this next one. So go ahead and take your arms out wide from your shoulders. And then slide up onto your right fingertips. So you're gonna bend your right elbow and slide right up onto your fingertips. Keep your left palm down onto the earth, palm down. And then press with your right hand, roll right on over to your left shoulder. And I'm gonna have Alex show you a couple different options. You can see a little bit better from the angle on her body. So you can leave both of your legs stacked. Can you stack right here? Yeah. So you can leave both of your legs stacked right here. These are going to progressively add a little bit more edge to the posture. You can bend into your right knee and rest back onto your foot like a little, so it makes a little kickstand. Some folks might want to even roll all the way over toward their lumbar spine until touching. With your right arm, you can also wrap it around your low back or even interlace your fingers behind you for a little length. You're going to start to build a lot of space in the chest, in the fronts of the shoulders, into heart and lung lines. Some of the lines of the upper body. Our pose we're working toward today is going to require a lot of mobility for hips, for hamstrings, as well as for shoulders. A lot of mobility in that supermobile joint. This one for a lot of people hold quite a bit of intensity. So the shoulder joint, since it's one of the most mobile, it also makes it one of the most complex joints. So we really want to go in very mindfully and very consciously into that edge. So we're about 1 minute in. There's going to be 1 more minute to go. If you feel like you need to soften out of the edge, start to roll back onto your heart. If you feel like you want to work to deepen, if something's opened up for you, begin to invite your low back a little bit closer to the earth. So it also becomes an exaggerator, a little bit more of an exaggerated twist. Take 3 more breaths. And then start to ease yourself back down to the earth. So front points of your shoulders, front points of your hips will come back down onto your mat. You can land there very slowly. And take a pause in the middle to neutralize. So your belly down, and find something that feels neutral for your shoulders. So that might be to keep them out wide like wings if that feels like not much sensation, or you can bring them down alongside your ribs. And even these spaces in between the poses in the yin practice, these little rebound spaces can be really ripe for exploration. So it's where you might notice shifts or changes in the kind of in the flow of the prana or the movement of chi, particularly in asymmetrical shapes, anything that feels different from one side to the other. There's nothing that you have to notice, that you should notice, or that you should be doing. It's really just open space for the wondering, right? For the curiosity. We learn to follow our own map and compass only if we take that time to explore. So if you have not already, you can flip to your opposite ear and then slide up onto your left fingertips this time. We have a really, really excited pod member this morning here with us. Move onto your left fingertips, keep your right palm down. And then go ahead and press into your left fingers, roll all the way over to the front of your right shoulder. We'll settle in for 2 minutes on the second side. So again, you can stack your legs right on top of one another. For most bodies, this will be the gentlest edge, right? You can also bend into your top leg, land down onto your foot, so it kind of stops your body from rolling back too far. Other options are to take your left arm maybe behind your low back, or even interlace your fingers behind you. You can feel into the different variations and notice which one's going to be best for you. Know that we'll land in it for 2 full minutes. So you find the one that feels edgy enough. There's some space being created. There's some inquiry being opened up. And also it's sustainable. It won't be injurious. There's nothing sharp or shooting. And when you find that sweet spot, hone in on the whole map of your body. And in yoga, when we talk about the body, it's not only the physical form, but all of those layers that make up you, that make up who you are. Notice what's most obvious, most prevalent right now. Then see if you can listen in a little bit deeper, a little bit closer. What might be kind of coming up in the background for you. Take 3 more breaths. And then start to ease your way out. Rest your heart and the front points of your hips back down onto the mat. Make your way there slowly. You can rest with a neutral spine, belly down. If you feel any sort of compression or something in any way kind of unsavory in the low back, you can bend your knees, float your toes, and take a little rock from side to side with your lower legs. And so if you have your toes waving high, go ahead and land them down onto the earth slowly. Slide your hands in underneath your shoulders. Press back and hurry toward a tabletop. And as an option, you certainly don't need to have blocks or books for this, but I want to show the option for those of you that would like to try it. It will be a little deeper edge for most body shapes. You can take your 2 blocks in front of you, leave some space between them for your head to dive down. And then land your elbows toward the top edge of your 2 blocks. Press your palms together. Your hips will stay high. So you can see here from Alex, her hip stays high above her knee. And then go ahead and dive heart and head down between your elbows. So if you get into this and it already feels like total science fiction for you in this moment, in this day, lose the blocks and you can take this right down onto the mat with your fingertips reaching forward. So without that bend in the elbows. Reach your fingertips forward, rest your chin or your third eye point, but the lower body stays the same. So hips stay high, stacked above your knees, and heart melts down. Heart melting pose. Last yin pose of the practice before we begin to add in some movement. And while you're paused here, since this is our first live Yin-Vin practice, a lot of folks often ask why we do the yin practice in the beginning and the vinyasa in the second half. So yin as a style of practice is intended to be practiced with a cold body. So we're addressing the connective tissue of the body, not the belly of the muscle, right? So the yin tissues, the colder tissues, require a colder body. In case you're curious why we start the practice on that slow tone and then work to build the heat. So this really helps to prevent us from not going too far or overdoing it or moving beyond a safe edge in your body. We have just about a minute, just over a minute left to go. The pose of the melting heart, Yin's Anahatasana. And start to move into your last 3 breath cycles for this shape. As you come to your next inhale, if you have your elbows up onto blocks, you can extend your arms, press into your palms, float your elbows, and then kind of walk your hands out wide. You can slide your blocks off to the side and roll way back toward a tall seat. So if this isn't the most comfortable for knee, ankle, or hip joints, you can also take a Sukhasana with your feet around to the front. You can also always take a block or book underneath your sit bones. This is going to be a good one to have your strap or your pillowcase or necktie close by. So keep that within reach. Take your right fingertips high and then bend into your right elbow to press your palm down into the back side of your heart. And then extend your left arm out from your shoulder, bend into your elbow. And so the left fingertips will reach up your back and the right fingertips reach down. So some folks might find that finger to finger grasp. Otherwise, your strap comes in handy. And with this one, you can also grab a piece of the shirt that you're wearing. That's going to work really well too. And then kind of add a little bit of resistance. It's like you're pulling your fingertips or your hands away from one another so that your right elbow really draws back in space. If you have a little bit of rounding here, focus on lifting the tip of your elbow and drawing it back. So it's a lift in your heart, and there's a lot of open space in the front of your chest. And go ahead and loosen your grasp. If you have your strap or tie, you can set that off to the side. Take your arms out wide. Land your right palm down off the right edge of your mat. Reach your left fingertips way up high and overhead. And spin your gaze right up under your left elbow. If you feel like you need a little bit more sensation, we want to get a little bit of space worked in between the ribs. So you can walk your right fingertips further over and work to really anchor your left side hip down. Draw your navel back toward lumbar spine, lift all the way up to center. Okay, so let's take that on the other side. Reach your left fingertips high. This time your left palm comes down between your shoulder blades. The right arm comes out from your shoulder, bend into your elbow. So the right palm faces toward the back edge of your mat. Left palm is right flat toward the back of your heart. You may hook fingertip to fingertip, just between the shoulder blades. You may grab a piece of your shirt, find your necktie, work to lift your left elbow up and back. We're really asking a lot of this, the shoulder mobility this morning. If it feels accessible, you might lift your gaze. That's going to add a little bit more lift of your heart. Keep your navel drawing back. Take one more breath. And then go ahead and release. Land your left palm off the left edge of your mat. Reach your right fingertips way up overhead. And remember, if you feel like you need to feel a little bit more in your right side ribs, you can kind of tiptoe on those left fingers out a little bit wider. Really press down through right side hip, right side sits bone. And spin your gaze up high. And then go ahead and roll all the way back towards center. If you're sitting back to your heels or propped up, you can set any equipment off to the side, roll your hips down, and take your feet around to the front. Extend your right leg long. Keep your left foot tucked into the inside of your right thigh, as in Janu Shirshasana. We'll take a different variation of it though. This is also another great one to have your strap or tie handy. So keep that somewhere within reach. So activate your right toes. You want them to draw back towards your shin. Take your right forearm to the inside of your right knee. And then with your left fingertips, sweep them out wide, high, and all the way up and overhead. So this is the direction that we're moving. It's a Parvritta Yandrasana, a revolve head to knee. So you might reach all the way over and find the pinky toe edge of your foot. Otherwise, again, your strap is going to be really handy for that. You can give yourself as much slack as you need. And then work to spin your gaze underneath your left arm, your left elbow. So there's really going to be a spin in your torso. and a lift upward with your heart. Okay. So you can see here with Alex, there's a tuck of her shoulder underneath, and the action is really a spin, but then there's also an extension. So she's really nice and long. She's not compromising the length of her spine to get depth into that twist. You can activate the belly in order to find that. Take another breath or two. And then release your foot, reach your left fingertips way up high to the sky. Come all the way back towards center. Draw your left knee in. Go ahead and extend your left leg out long. So yeah, swap your equipment off to the opposite side. You're like using your strap. Bring your right foot in. So you want right foot above your knee. Activate, so you're gonna squeeze your right quad into your calf and your calf into your quad. That's gonna pull your right hip forward just a bit. Then land your left forearm to the inside of your left knee. Draw your left toes back toward your shin. Sweep your right fingertips way up and overhead. So maybe there's space where you bind the outer edge, the pinky toe edge of your foot. Maybe you have your strap or necktie. Spin your gaze underneath your right elbow. Give yourself as much slack as you like with your tie, your strap. There's really quite a deep rotation of that whole rib cage. And again, without compromising the length. So if you're noticing that it's a little bit slouchy, like more of a yin-like expression, better to back off and find length and integrity again in the posture. Right? Take a few more breaths. Remember, you're exploring this whole big wide map of your body. What's interesting? What's catching your curiosity? And then go ahead and release the grasp from your strap or from your foot. Trace your right fingertips high. Come all the way up. You can use your hand to help guide your right leg back out. Sweep both feet around behind you. And come up toward table. And the last few movements for the spine here. So cat and cow, you can lift your heart and your gaze. And then round. As you round, really press down into the mat. Good stabilizer for the shoulder as well after all that flexibility work. So tilts of your pelvis forward and then back. See if you can coordinate physical movement as a follower of your breath. So your breath leads and the body follows. Most of our day we spend with the breath kind of blindly following around or unconsciously following around. Yoga is a space where we can really bring the breath up to center stage. And then go ahead and work your way back toward neutral spine. Tuck your 10 toes under behind you and reach your hips up high. Adho Mukha Svanasana, first down dog of the practice. You can bend into one knee and then the other. A little bit of movement, any little hip sways that you might like. A little spot again to not pass by yourself without wondering. Notice how it feels to come into this first more active posture as we come toward the more fiery portion of the practice. Settle back in towards center and then lift your gaze forward. You can step your right foot all the way up through, maybe a couple baby steps. You can also help with your hand and your right foot all the way up between both hands. Stay on your left tippy toes at the back so your heel is lifted and the underside of your knee is really active. Inhale all the way up. Activate your whole arm, all 10 fingertips. And then take your right finger, your right hand rather, the index finger and thumb as a little L. Hook your right hip pocket and drag it back just a little. That's in turn, it's going to slide your left hip forward. Then reach your left fingertips across to the opposite side of the mat. Again, to find some space up left side body. You can lift your gaze under your elbow if you feel steady. Notice what's going on in your back knee. Really light up the underside of it and lift. Slide all the way back to center. Take both arms high and active. And then circle your elbows back, big, strong cactus arms. Raise your heart high. Inhale once again to the sky. This time, breathe your hands down right through the heart. Land both hands to the inside of your right foot. So you have the option to land your left knee down at the back if you'd like. You can stay stacked, wrists, elbows, shoulders. You can come down to your elbows. This is always a spot you can incorporate your blocks or books as well. Or maybe you want to land down to elbows and keep your back knee raised. So you can take any variation in lower or upper body. And then go ahead and breathe back into your hands. If you're not already there, so walk up into the palms of your hands and float your back knee if you're not already there. Take same option, that L with your right hand, hook your heel, your right heel, so your trunk is to the inside, and work to lower your ribs to the inside of your right thigh. So you can hang out here and take a little bit of a pulse with it. Remember, you're on your tippy toes at the back. If you're feeling a little bit of openness in the front hip, you might reach your right fingertips toward the opposite edge of the mat underneath your right knee. And then go ahead and walk both hands back down. If you have fingertips afloat, come back to the inside. Heel toe step your right foot to the center. Step it back to meet your left, plank pose. And you haven't come into full chaturanga yet, so let's take a round of knees, and then chest, and then chin. Slide your heart forward. Land the crest of your hips, roll your upper arm bones back, Bhujangasana. Lift just your heart, slide your shoulders down from your ears. And then press up through table. Suck your 10 toes, reach high and back. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Here we go. Lift your gaze forward. Step your left foot up through this time. You can help it to get there, of course. Stay on your right tippy toes. Really fire up the underside of your knee and then reach high. Ashta Chandrasana. So back heel is lifted, back knee is lifted and active. This time with your left hand, index finger and thumb, hook into your left hip. Draw your hip back. That will reach your right hip forward just a bit more. And extend right fingertips across to the opposite side. You might spin your gaze underneath your right elbow. Remember to drag back on your left hip. Lift all the way back to center. Draw your navel back to lumbar. That's going to support the core, your low back. Circle your elbows back. Spread your fingers wide. Reach your heart high. And then inhale, lift. Slide your ribs right back above pelvic bowl again. So everything's fired up here. And go ahead and breathe both hands down to the inside of your left foot. Option to land your back knee or keep it afloat. Option to stay on your palms or walk down towards your elbows. We'll take a few breaths in stillness here. Good spot to wander. Take a little bit of a wander inside. What are you wondering about? What are you curious about? Zooming in on that compass within, the direction that you find when you look inside. All right, so all yogis back up onto your hands if you're not already there. Float your back knee. And then just as we did from standing, L of the left hand this time, index finger and thumb cup behind your heel. And so you can take pulses, drop your trunk to the inside of your left thigh. Stick with that. If you feel like you have a good edge and you want to maybe build on it or try something different flavor today, maybe float your left fingertips. And then go ahead and land both hands down. Frame up your left foot. So take a little wiggle with your left toes back towards center. Step your left foot back to meet your right. Let's take one more round, knees, chest, chin, or if you want to chaturanga, land your knees on the first time. Inhale to a back bend, either a baby cobra or a upward dog with your thighs resting low. Roll back through knees, up over toes, and reach back. Adho Mukha Svanasana. And bring your gaze forward to your fingertips. Take a walk up just one footprint at a time. So this transition itself is really great for getting a lot of length and depth in the hamstring. So slow walk all the way forward. Uttanasana toward your forward fold. You can slide up onto your fingertips to blocks or right up onto your shins. Half fold. Draw your navel back to lumbar, fold a little deeper, activate your quads so your hamstring spine lengthens. And then breathe your arms out wide. Come all the way up high to standing. Bring your gaze up to your fingertips, Utthita Tadasana, and as you breathe down through your heart, come all the way right back forward to a fold. Lift up halfway to fingertips, to your blocks, or to your shins. Exhale, ground your palms, spread your fingers wide, get each knuckle grounded. Step back, of course, if you're hopping in your practice, you have liberty to do that in your home practice. Bend into your elbows, keep your knees afloat if you'd like to this time around, and then inhale to lift to the tops of your feet. Urdhva Mukha. Exhale, roll up and back over your toes. We have the monkeys here with us this morning. Yay. Take a breath. And then inhale your right leg high. Take a bend into your right knee and trace a big full circle with your right knee. The bigger the circle, the better in one direction. And then in the other direction. Then go ahead and extend your right leg long again. Lift your gaze to the top edge of your mat. Step your right foot all the way up through. This time around, spin your left heel down. So your left heel grounds this time. Press into the pinky toe edge. Leave a little bit of space between your heels for your hip width and then rise. Virabhadrasana 1 and Warrior 1. Remember the ribs track back so they're above your pelvic bowl. Interlace your fingers behind you. You can press your knuckles down toward the earth. Follow that by a lift of your heart. And then rise up through center. You're gonna need a little bit of a swivel with your trunk. Drop down to the inside of your right thigh. So your belly does not rest onto your thigh, but rather you swivel just a little to drop down to the inside. So if you need to adjust your foundation to make sure you're a little more stable, again, a little bit of width between your heels can help with that. A Baddha Virabhadrasana, bound warrior, humble warrior. And then go ahead and reach with your knuckles high toward the sky. Let that lift you all the way back to standing. Release, inhale, all 10 fingertips high, back to Warrior 1. And then breathe on down through heart center to frame your front foot. Here's where you can slide up onto your tippy toes at the back, and maybe you want to take your blocks or your books, or you can leave your hands right down onto the mat, yogi's choice. Take a bend into your back foot. Back knee rather, find a little bit of momentum and float your left toes. And then start to lift your toes as you do. Drop your gaze towards your shin, towards your base leg shin, or maybe all the way toward the back edge of your mat for a standing split. I'm gonna ask you to take a little bit of, yeah, you got it. Yeah, nice. And I ask you to take a little bit of movement on it. I know we're always told to keep the hips square, but I want this to be a little bit more exploratory and really get into an opening for your hips. So I encourage you to reach your toes as high as you possibly can, even if that means your hips open up and then they're not square anymore. So reach your toes up as high as you possibly can, high enough that you get sensation in the front of your left hip, and then that right side quad is working really hard. Take one more breath. Nice. And then bend, take a soft bend into your right knee and hover all the way back to your left tippy toes. Nice. Step your right foot back to meet your left. This is where you get to opt into or out of your chaturanga. So add it in here, layer it on here, or press back to your down dog. Hang for 3 breaths. 3 breaths to cycle through vinyasa, or 3 breaths to hold it down dog, or always in child's pose as an option. Good. And then go ahead and inhale your left leg high this time around. Bend deep into your left knee. Big full circle in one direction and the other. And then bring your gaze forward to your fingertips. Yeah, with your left leg extended long once again. Step your left foot all the way up through. Warrior 1 foundation on this one, so your back heel spins down. Press into pinky toe edge and reach high. Virabhadrasana 1. Slide your right hip forward. Work to stack your front knee above your ankle. And then interlace your fingers behind you. Press your knuckles down toward the earth. Reach your heart high. And then go ahead and bring your gaze forward. Little bit of a swivel in your trunk so you drop down to the inside of your left thigh. Inside of your left thigh. Work to keep the heels of your hands as close to one another. They don't have to touch. That may not be possible in every body form, but the action is an inward draw of the heels of your hands toward the midline. Lift your navel back toward your spine, and then go ahead and inhale, rise. Reach your knuckles high, all the way back up to standing. Release. Reach all 10 fingertips up. And then breathe on down. Bring your hands to the earth. So same options, you can have blocks to support you here, or bring your hands right to the earth. Slide up onto the tippy toes at the back, bend into your knee for some momentum, and float. So standing split. As your toes start to rise, allow your head to drop. If it feels safe for you, your gaze might even go all the way to the back edge of your mat. You might even bring your hands onto your base leg. And then just for today, don't want you all getting in trouble when you go back to your home studios after all this, but just for today, reach your toes as high as you can, even if that means your hip starts to open. Even if you're out of square hips, your left side quad's working really hard. Remember to breathe. And then go ahead and bend deep into your base knee. Slide your right tiptoes back down to the ground. Step back. Option 2, vinyasa. Option to slide right back into your down dog. Option to pause in child's pose. Follow the compass of your own practice and your own body. Breathe. Okay. Take your right leg high. Bring your gaze forward and step your right foot all the way up through. Land your left knee down behind you. You may like to pad or cushion your knee with a blanket, or you can always fold your mat in, take like a little half fold of your mat as well. Find your 2 blocks or books at either side of your right foot. And then sink way deep into your front hip, like as if going toward Anjaneyasana. We're gonna keep the arms down low. So deep sink into your hips, and then roll your hips back and flip your front toes, half Hanuman. So the front leg lengthens, but your hips stay high, and you can fold your trunk forward. Lots of feels for the hamstring, and then roll your weight forward, press into the sole of your right foot, sink your hips low, lift your heart. Take a little bit of an oscillation between these 2 postures, a half Hanuman, a little low baby Anjaneyasana. And then the next time you land into the sole of your right foot, I'm going to go ahead and cushion my back knee for this next one. Very slowly walk both of your hands up atop your right thigh. And then lots of different options here. So the first one is work to float your left toes behind you. And that might feel like enough. You float your toes and then land. Float and then land. If you still feel pretty steady there with your toes afloat, reach back with your left hand. come to the top of your foot. If you're still feeling pretty steady, reach back with your right hand. Yeah, you got your strap handy as well, or your necktie. And then work to pull your heel, left heel, actively into your outer left hip. Bring your gaze to a drishti, maybe out beyond the horizon or down to the earth, anything that's unmoving. If you feel a little wobbly or unsteady, take one more breath. And go ahead and slowly release. Without slingshotting, land those toes down softly. Frame your right foot. Float your left knee, step it back. Here's your option, yogis. Vinyasa, layer it on if you're feeling the building more heat, or otherwise right back to your down dog. Take a breath. And then go ahead and inhale your left leg high. Step your left foot all the way up through. Between both hands, land your right knee down. Options to cushion, go ahead and grab your blocks. All right, so let's alternate between that really deep drop forward with the whole weight of your pelvis, a really deep Anjaneyasana, and then roll back, keep your hips high, but float your left toes, half Hanuman, so your front leg is extended long, and maybe your trunk falls too. Couple more rounds. Pour into the sole of your left foot, drop the weight of your pelvis, and then roll back. Just remember, your breath can lead and the body movement follows. So begin your next round of breath. Body follows that as the cue. Land into the sole of your left foot and then stay. As you feel steady, walk both of your hands up to your left thigh and perhaps float right toes, and you can play there, float and land, float and land. You still feel pretty steady, reach back with your right hand, find the top of your right foot. You're still doing pretty well there, then go ahead and reach back with your left hand, so you're bound with both hands. And then work to actively draw right heel in toward right side sits bone, or maybe even right outer hip. If you feel a little steady or wobbly, bring your eyes down to a grounded drishti. Point to an unmoving point to set your eyes on, or maybe out over the horizon. Take one more breath. And then mindfully release. All right, folks, last chance for chaturanga. I know how much everyone loves those, so put it in if you'd like. Or otherwise, we'll meet together back at down dog. And then walk or hop your way just about midway up the mat. Crisscross your ankles. Come down to a seat. And make sure you've got your strap or your tie nearby. All right. So I love this pose, Parvritta Yandrasana. We have a revolved compass pose for our inner exploration practice. You can extend your right leg long, just as Janu Shirshasana pose we started the practice with. Left foot to the inside of your right thigh. And then bend into your right knee until you land on the sole of your foot. You're in this kind of like relaxed, loungy posture. You're going to take a rotation of your trunk so that your body is to the inside of your right knee. Yeah. All right. Before we go any further, if you simply know with your hip and shoulder mobility that you would like to have the little go-go gadget extension, then take your strap underneath your right toes and have both tails of the strap extend out off the opposite edge of your mat. Okay? And then drop your trunk forward. And just like elephant's trunk, for those that joined that practice, the work is to take your hamstring onto your shoulder as if it's like a backpack strap. We're going to do a little bit slower breakdown on this side. And then maybe with your left hand, you take the pinky toe edge of your right foot and you work to extend back, or otherwise you take the tails of your strap and work to extend your right leg. So you can always, you choose the flavor, you're taking your own inner exploration. So it might be like an extend and then bend, like a little pulsing movement. If you feel pretty sturdy, pretty steady there, and you're bound, hand to foot or with your strap, and you find an extension, the next thought is to dip your head underneath your left arm and take a spin. So you've created all that space in the side body. It's a deep open twist. Spin your gaze underneath your left elbow. Yes. Nice. Yes. Parvritta Yandrasana. I'm getting excited about what's happening in the live class behind the screen here. Nice. Take one more breath. And then go ahead and bend. Well done. Bend into your right knee. Come on back to center. Take a pause in the middle. Take a pause in the middle. So sit to Sukhasana. I know in my body I can really feel a difference between what's going on in one side versus the other after that deep shape. So take a pause to rebound and to really notice the landscape of your body. All right, so here we go. We have a second side. It's time to go ahead and extend your left leg long. Bring right foot to the inside of your left thigh. Slide up onto the sole of your left foot. Have your strap handy and a little bit of a swivel. Your trunk comes to the inside of your left bent knee. All right, so you work to slide your left shoulder or left upper arm underneath your bent knee. You know you are going to want that extension. Remember to take your strap below your toes. The tails of your strap extend to the opposite side. That's going to just allow it to be the most accessible. So as you dunk your shoulder under, you can work to extend your left leg, and maybe you bind here. Remember, what's nice with the strap or the ties, you can really give yourself a ton of space here, right? So it could be really low, extend and bend, or if you're up higher on your shoulder, maybe you bind towards your pinky toe edge. The next work after extension is to dip your head underneath right elbow, and it's a big exaggerated rotation with the trunk, with the ribs, to lift your heart upward toward the sky. And all of this is happening, and you're still going to find a nice, solid, steady breath, right? That's a big part of your inner compass, so that's guiding the whole practice. If you cannot breathe smoothly and fluidly, then back off a notch. Take one more round. Yes, nice. And then go ahead and come back down slowly. Settle back into your Sukhasana. Cross your right arm underneath your left as in eagle arms. Float your fingertips up to the sky, and then drag your elbows towards your navel, round your back and fold. Come back up towards center. Untangle, go ahead and take it to the other side. So this time, left arm underneath, crisscross, join the backs of your hands, thumb or palms, reach your fingertips high, and then drag your elbows to your navel. And come all the way back up, untangle your upper arms. Roll forward towards your knees. You can take your feet out wide so that your sits bones drop between your heels, or you can touch your toes together behind you. So that's going to just depend on your bone structure. For Supta Virasana, we won't do like a long yin hold with this one. Begin your journey back. So first land into your palms. You can always elevate hips with blocks, with books, bolsters, pillows, whatever you have at home. Maybe come down toward your elbows. Or perhaps, if it's within a safe measure in your practice, perhaps you come all the way down onto the earth, maybe even with arms up overhead. We're going to pause here for just a few breaths. With your next inhale, walk right back up. If you're all the way to the earth, press first to elbows. If you're to elbows, press then into the palms. Roll your weight forward, float your hips, just slide your feet all the way around to the front. And then bring your feet about hip-width distance apart. Make sure you have anything within reach that you know and love for Shavasana. Go ahead and come to rest all the way down onto the mat, but keep your knees bent. Keep your knees bent. And then bring your arms out wide like a T to either side. You can keep your feet wide. Draw your knees both down towards your right, as in twisted roots. So if you'd like, you can bind right ankle atop outer left thigh. So again, turning back to that place of exploring solitude, even sometimes in crowded places, or in very young or very active moments, dropping into a place where you can really listen to the deepest messages, the intuition, the contact with spirit of your choosing that happens within. If you're bound with your right foot to your left thigh, you can untangle as both feet back to the earth. Get your tummy a little active, roll towards center. Take a breath in the middle. And then ease both of your knees down to the opposite side. Same option, if you'd like, this time around you can bind your left foot atop your outer right thigh. If you feel like you want to add a little bit more depth to your twist or a little deeper edge, just an option. Otherwise, keep your feet wide and your knees staggered. Smooth your breath. Open space, that inner knowing that is your only true compass. And then if you're bound with left foot to top outer thigh, untangle. Slide back towards center. Take any final movement, shape, gesture, pose that will make this practice feel a bit more complete for you. And then I'd like to give the option, I'll share one last closing inquiry and quote. You may either take a seated meditation for integration of your practice, or if it feels best for you to integrate, slide right down into Shavasana. So as you land in whatever is the best destination for integration for you today, I'd like to share with you all an observation from St. Augustine, who said that people so often go abroad to wonder at the heights of the mountains, the huge waves of the sea, the long courses of the rivers, the vast open compass of the ocean, the circular movement in the stars. And yet they pass by themselves so often without wondering. So I'd like to really open up this inquiry for your integration, and maybe you want to move with it through the rest of your day. Or a prompt to not pass by yourself without wondering. Be curious about what you feel, about what's arising in your present experience, because there's a whole lot coming up for all of us on the micro and the macrocosm. From the individual, the smaller community, all the way out, expanding to the global. But allow yourself to take pause to explore, to wonder, be present with all that is. So for those of you practicing with us at home, I encourage you to hang out in Shavasana as long as it would best serve your practice. I thank you all so much for joining. Please have a beautiful rest of your day. Be well, stay safe. Jai Bhagwan and Namaste.